Okay, everybody, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on what time zone you are in. This is an exciting webcast for me. I've had a lot of fun with this contest the last 3 months, and it's kind of cool to see what everybody has done with it. So we'll dive right in and take a look at it. First off, let me just talk about what we're going to do. I'm going to just briefly describe the contest for folks who have not seen it before. And then, hang on just a minute. I want to make sure the recording is up. Yep, it's recording. Then we'll announce the winners, and then we'll talk a little bit about how they did it and take a look at some of the configurations for what was done. So the contest is something we've done now 6 times, and this year we decided to make it much harder than we've ever done it before. What we did was we took the OLTP benchmark that we did last year and combined that with a batch billing process that we had done earlier but modified this time, so that you had to run the OLTP and the batch at the same time. And the goal was to see who could get the most transactions, both for the batch and the OLTP at the same time. And the grand prize is an Apple iPad for the Fastest DBA. The only real qualification was you had to be an Informix DBA and you couldn't work for Advanced Data Tools, which means Art couldn't win it or any of the rest of my team, and you couldn't work for IBM. Now, we came up with a number of honorary prizes, and this is going to be interesting when I get into this, because wanted to have a number of honorary winners. Didn't quite work out the way I intended for it to work this year, and I'll talk about that later. We also did it over the web. Typically, we run the contest at the Informix User Conference, the IIUG conference. This was much harder doing it over the web. I'm really amazed at everybody who participated, because I have a hard time supporting and tuning people when I'm talking to a customer on the phone and I don't even get to see their machine. Everybody who participated in the contest didn't get to see the machine. All you had were emails from me. And you guys, everybody did a phenomenal job. I'm really impressed with what everybody did. And so the challenge was to get the most OLTP, which was measured in transactions per minute. This is the Java batch program, and at the end of the run of 10 minutes, it shows you how many transactions per minute you achieve, and then add that to the number of bills generated per minute. And the batch billing program, the best way to think about it was it would sit there and run bill cycles for 10 minutes. Now, the baseline that everybody started with, it took 12 hours to run one batch bill cycle. I don't think enough people realize this. So anybody who could get one batch bill cycle to run in 10 minutes, you've had a huge improvement there from 12 hours to 10 minutes on a machine that you didn't get to see, you didn't get to try yourself. It's pretty amazing to me. And the goal was to see how many cycles you could get. And what several people figured out is this is really the key to winning the contest. In judging it, we said you had to have at least one cycle, and you also had to do the OLTP. You had to have both there. And the key to winning the contest was how many cycles you could run in the 10 minutes. Again, this is on my little Mac mini server. It's 4 cores, 8 gigs of memory, and it runs on SSD drive. So I/O times were not really the problem. And I think this is one thing I noticed a lot of. It was memory and CPU seemed to be more the bottleneck than actual I/O, because it's a very fast machine out of the box for I/O. It's what the biggest thing I saw is folks would allocate too much memory to Informix and slow the system down. It was interesting, a number of times where I couldn't even shut down Informix at the end of a run because it was swapping so bad. And one of the things I tried to do was save the results of the run to send them back to the person who participated. And if I couldn't shut Informix down after about 30 minutes, I would just have to do a hard reset and would lose the results. And so this was another challenge that I think people had, was getting the right memory and CPU combination, because it's not a big machine. Got 8 gigs of memory, and the operating system and the Java transaction manager need about 2.5 to 3 gigs to run. So if you, I think this was probably the number one mistake I saw in most entries, is people over-configured memory and ended up with the machine just swapping so badly. In many cases, it became unusable. And so the task was to tune and optimize the on-config. You could tune and optimize the databases, indexes, update stats, lock mode, and tune and optimize the benchmark script. A couple of key points I want to make here. There was one missing index. The batch job took 12 hours to run with that index missing. You add that index down, and you could get the batch job to run in a minute or two. And so those who found that index, identified it, or found a workaround, and this is the interesting thing. There are some people who may have known about that index, but they found workarounds where they didn't need that index. Did the best with the batch. The second part of the benchmark was tuning the script itself that ran. And this was a SQL script. It had an update, an insert, and a bunch of updates. And several people got it down to one SQL statement versus the 4 or 5 that I had there in the baseline. And that was key. And you'll see that in just a minute when I go through what the winners did. The winner got it down to one SQL statement. Took all the inserts and all the updates and optimized that into one statement. So it was a very challenging contest. The other thing we did was we made it bigger than last year. I wanted purposely to make the database big enough so that it didn't fit in memory. Zipped up, it was 8.3 gigs. And I know a lot of people had trouble downloading it because of the size. And we provided workarounds for that over time. But was a big database to run and to utilize, and that made it more challenging. So all that is to say, this year was probably the most challenging contest I've ever made. It was the most difficult, and you guys who participated did a really awesome job. I'm very impressed. All you had to do was send back 3 files, and you could submit them up to 3 times. The folks who did really well, did it once, got the results back, sent them a second time, got the results back, and then maybe did them a third time if needed. And that seemed to work out really well for some folks. So without further ado, let me just jump right into who won, and then we'll get to how they did it. But first, before I need to say again, congratulations to everyone who participated. We had about 60 people enter the contest from all over the world. I was actually surprised. We had more international entries than from North America. A really strong international showing this year, and everybody did really good. And we didn't have as many as what I would call honorary winners as we did in the past, partly because the baseline was so high. We had 4 people who did really good. In fact, it was very close at first. And so I took the 4 entries and I reran each of them 3 or 4 times just to make sure that it was right. And none of the results changed from rerunning it. So the first results are pretty much on target. But everybody did a really good job, and the 4 who came out the best really did an awesome job. And so let me get right into congratulating the winners. The fastest DBA is Tian Ming Cheng. I met Tian actually in South Africa. He's from South Africa, Cape Town, when I was down there in March. And he really impressed me. He was in one of my classes. We worked on performance tuning at one of his clients. He is one of the youngest, has had the least amount of experience of anybody who entered the contest, and was the fastest. Tian took the batch billing job and got it to run 9 times during that 10-minute run. Now, one of the other parts about the batch billing job is it may start out very fast, but as it generates more records, it slows down. So the first run may be in 30 seconds. The last run may be in 2 minutes. But he got it to do 9 cycles, and he very rightly focused on that. But he also did a respectable job with the OLTP part of the contest. And congratulations to Tian. I'm really glad to see him do this. A little bit about Tian, and I'm going to unmute you if you're on the line there, Tian. I'm going to unmute you in a minute. He's from Regola, which is one of the Informix IBM partners in South Africa. And he's one of the driving forces behind starting the user group in South Africa, which was another exciting thing that I got to do when I was down there. Tian, I'm going to unmute you and give you a chance to say hi and maybe say a little bit about yourself.
Hi guys. Sorry, I thought most of the guys
you have a
crowd here with me.
Hey, yeah. Congratulations! I am really impressed with what you did with this.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, I'm actually quite surprised and didn't really plan much for what to say. But yeah, I must say, first of all, thank you for hosting the competition, and it's been absolute fun working on these problems. And yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot from this exercise, and I hope everybody else is as well.
Awesome. And we'll talk some more in just a little bit about how you did it. But let me go ahead and introduce the other winners. So I'm going to put you back on mute, and we'll go to the next one. Then I'll come back to you in a little bit, okay?
Okay.
And next was Goring Carlson. He did a really good job of both balancing the OLTP and the batch. Goring, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, I'm going to unmute you, or you're here, so you can say a few words about yourself.
I work in a hospital in Gothenburg with Informix, and I think this challenge was very interesting.
Well, you did a phenomenal job with this, and congratulations. Really pleased to see how you did with it. And you got the second best score on both parts of the batch and the OLTP. So did a really good job on it. Then I'm going to mute you again, and we'll go to the next winner. And Frank is the only one who is from the U.S. who's in the top 4. Frank actually had the highest OLTP score of anybody else, and so he's the OLTP winner, and his batch was also very respectable in doing that. Frank, I'm going to unmute you and let you introduce yourself and say a few words. Frank, are you there?
Hi, Lester.
Hey.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Lester, for organizing this fun event. It's tremendous fun. You know, I like that very much. And it's a lot of fun. You know, it's basically kind of retake another advanced Informix performance training class. You know, it's very good. And I spend basically most of my spare time. And it's a huge fun. I like it. Thank you very much, Lester.
You're most welcome. And like everybody, I'm always amazed at how much time Frank and I know spent on this. Really did an awesome job, Frank. And then I'm going to mute you again, Frank, and we'll come back. The last one is Edsel Barcine, and I probably am pronouncing his name terribly wrong. He couldn't be with us today. He's in the middle of doing an Informix migration, but he's from Australia and works with an Informix partner, Select Software Solutions, and he did a really phenomenal job in rounding up the whole process here and did a really good job of it. So sort of the way we did it, and to be one of the 4, and this is, we had a lot of people who did good on the OLTP but didn't do the batch. And the key we decided was you had to at least pass the baseline on both the batch and the OLTP to be one of the honorary winners. And so Ian is the grand prize winner. Goring is the honorary, the senior DBA winner. Frank is the fastest OLTP, and Edsel is the international winner of the contest. And so I want to take a minute and just give everybody a clap here and say congratulations to what you did. And again, everybody else who participated, I hope you had as much fun as I did in learning about this and how things worked and how they did it. So I want to take a look at how they did it. And I'm going to do a couple of things here. There were 3 things that everybody had a chance to do. One was work with the on-config. And I took the on-config of the top 4 and put them in a spreadsheet. And can everybody see this spreadsheet? And Art Kegel's on the phone, and I asked Art to take a look at this. So I'm going to unmute you, Art. And Art, why don't you talk about what you see as the differences in this?
All right.
Can you see this okay, Art?
I've got my local copy. It's a little small on my small laptop.
Okay.
I didn't set up the big one today, but I've got a local copy. So one of the things that I noticed is that even these 4 people who did so well on the contest, and by the way, congratulations to everybody. I know how huge this the database was and how difficult this contest was to combine OLTP and the batch process. So one of the things that everybody did that probably reduced their total results, certainly among these 4, was that we have a large Shem-Vert size. Everybody was anywhere from 800 megs to 1.4 gigabytes of virtual memory. And then also everybody had, again, from 1.6 to 1.7 gigabytes of buffers. So the machine only had 8 gig of memory total. So we were kind of pushing things that way. Okay, so it was a little bit tight. Other users who pushed it even further had real performance differences. So some of the things that we saw here was in the everybody here, and you'll notice, pushed up the checkpoint interval on line 8, and that so that there wouldn't be any checkpoints during the test, or at least to minimize the number of checkpoints during the test. And that was probably improved performance for the OLTP portion, and certainly compared to the batch portion either. What I was looking at was that Tien reduced the LRU min and max 30 down from the default of 60 and 50 to 2 and 1, which is kind of old school. But when we've done this benchmark in-house, and we can see it here, that does help both batch and OLTP performance in general. And so, whereas everybody else of the 4 winners went the other way and increased their LRU min and max 30 on the buffer cache to try and take advantage of cache writes at the end of towards the end of the process, that may have had a severe effect on the performance by causing checkpoint loss, and certainly might have hurt the OLTP performance. Okay. The other thing that I noticed was that the statement cache was enabled only by Frank and Mr. Carlson, and that probably had a positive effect on the OLTP performance itself, because all of the OLTP process is a bunch of Java threads, and they're not using prepared statements. So the OLTP part of the test would take good advantage of the statement cache, and we can see that because the cache was set up very aggressively by both of the people who did better on the OLTP portion of the test. Okay, and similarly, everybody of the winners except for Tien enabled the VP memory cache, which again is important for reducing the internal contention for memory inside the engine for large numbers of users. And so that was a factor also, I think, in the OLTP performance that they got. And I think those are the main points that I wanted to bring up. Also, and the other thing was the read ahead. And in this one, everybody except Tien really took the default read ahead settings. But Tien set his read ahead down They actually set the auto read ahead to 1,16, enabling the new, well, keeping the new algorithm in, but reducing the number of read ahead pages from 128 to 32. And I think that had an impact on the batch performance by reducing buffer consumption during the large process. And I think that those are the main points that I noticed.
Well, thank you, Art. I'll maybe turn it over to Tian for a minute if you're still there, and let me unmute you. And Tian, would you have any other comments on your on-config changes?
Yeah. So, like Art's comments, those were mainly correct. Like I mentioned earlier, my entire design was mainly based around the batch area, as I saw higher scoring potential in that area. So you'll notice a couple of things like the default table lock mode was still kept the page, which was actually part of a gamble that I took, that the sessions would eventually lock themselves out, giving more buffers to give, for the batch process. So it turned, I mean, that's the configuration I got the best points out of, and it looks like it worked out.
Yeah, you made a very wise choice there to go after the batch, and that's really worked out for you. Cool, thank you.
Thanks.
Goring, do you have anything? I'm going to unmute you. Do you have anything to add on the on-config entries?
I also figured out that the bill generating was best to optimize most, but I couldn't figure out how to give that higher priority.
Yeah, that's a challenge, and let me unmute Frank. And Frank, see if you have anything to add to the on-config discussion.
Yes, Lester. I think on-topic, one of the challenges for me, or I didn't see that before, is it seems to ask me a big shared memory. I increased that quite a bit, shared memory as right. That is not buffers. The user session use that, and the Sims user session consumed a bigger number of shared memory size. So I never give that big before. So if the reason is it's in the online log file. If I don't give that much big, it will add another. Keep adding new segments. Virtual memory, virtual memory. So that is very big for this. And
I think that's a key point that a lot of people didn't realize. If you don't give it enough virtual memory, it's going to go out and add them. And a lot of times when the system's locked up on me, it was with people who had not given enough, and so it added more virtual memory and then locked up. So that was a wise move, Frank.
Yes, the others, like read mode, committed, I use the not committed, and the others, I can't recall what's the other, some, the other I cannot recall, Lester. I think that's what I'm very impressed for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Frank. Let me put everybody on mute. So let me show everyone just a couple of other things that happened. And I meant to show this earlier. You can barely see this. This is TN's screen. One of the things we did this year was everyone, when their 10 minutes was up, we took a screen snapshot of the screen, and that's what we use to record the entries. And so Tien, got about 3,337 transactions per minute in the OLTP, but he got 907,000 records inserted. And the key point I want to make here is we only counted records in this last display. So you could have records inserted, but if the last section of that insert was not done, they weren't counted within your 10 minutes. So this was 9 cycles of the batch billing process, which is really, really good. Now, I want to show some of the other things we did and folks did. And I'm going to start with Tien and just take a look at some of his code. So everybody had a chance to do what I call a prep script. And the idea was, it was basically an empty script that we sent out, and we said, fill in and tell us what you want to do here before the contest runs or your entry runs. And we put a 30-minute limit on it. Anybody who did something that took more than 30 minutes, and I ended up letting everybody run for an hour, 10 minutes before I killed it. But Tien's took about a minute and a half or 2 minutes to run. Basically, the first thing he did was alter all the tables strategically to page or row mode locking, and created one index. And then this is the key thing that he did that I think made a big difference. That's this trigger right here. At the very end of the batch job, it does an insert back into the customer table. And Tien, instead of doing that insert, put a trigger on so that every time you inserted a bill, that customer automatically got updated right at that point in time. And this saved one whole SQL statement in the batch job, and I think was one of the keys. When we held a similar kind of batch contest years ago, this was one of the things that one of the winners had done before then, and it was key to getting it running. The other thing he did in the prep script was he did sort of primed the buffers with one bill run and then deleted it, so that it basically got the records into memory and then deleted those records, so they didn't count. And there are a couple of other ways that folks did this. We decided to allow this to happen. But the basic idea was to read your records into memory before the contest actually started. So this was really, really good. What that meant then was he only had one insert statement. And the insert statement used a select with a hash join and a case statement, and this eliminated all the other update statements. By putting them in the case statement and having that trigger, there were no other update statements that needed to happen. And this, I think, was probably one of the keys to why he did so well in the batch process here. And he kept the rest of it where this bit of code right here is how we tell how many records have been produced, and he kept all that in like it was supposed to happen. So did a real good job with that, Tien. And Let me unmute you for a minute and see if you want to add anything else.
Not really. Hi. Not really. I think you covered most of it. Oh yes, one thing I wanted to mention was my initial insert wasn't actually for memory allocate. Oh, well, putting things in memory. It was actually for my first extent allocator. So if you look at, one of the first alters I did, I actually altered the table size so that it could cater for at least 20 runs. So the first 10 records inserted would actually just allocate the first extent, and then after deleting them, the first extent would stay there. You'll notice that at the end of the query, there's a unload over there into dev null. That's what I actually use to buffer my pages. So if you go right to the end, of the prep.
Yeah, this unload statement right here.
Yes, that's what I use to create the hot blocks.
Yeah. Okay. I hadn't thought about that. So you use the first insert to get the extent, right? Which is a key thing, because otherwise you're sitting there adding extents all the time to that table.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
You could have accomplished the extent also by just adding setting the extent on the table to something large initially, and then
okay. All right. I remember one of the rules initially was that we weren't allowed to alter the physical first extent, the initial extent of the table.
Right. Right, but you could have made a second extent that was large.
So that was actually for the second extent, except the added extent.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So let's take a look at Mr. Carlson's exercises here, because this is also really, really good. Again, he set the tables, this time all of them to row, level locking, and created a number of indexes, and then had quite a bit on update statistics. And this was an area, I think he had a very good combination of update statistics here. Some people went overboard, and if you had your memory set too high to begin with, and then in your on config, and then when I was running the prep skips, it locked up there. That, I think, affected the whole end result. And Mr. Carlson had a really good sort of mean of doing the update stats and also getting the memory just right. That made this all work out well. And the insert into bills, the updates, this was not really changed. This is actually pretty much the standard script that we did. So you can see had the bills, had the update statements, and had the totals there at the end. Then I'm going to, we'll save getting additional comments from Goring and Frank until the end. I wanted to show Frank's real quick here. Frank did something unique again, and had the typical set the, well, first he set the next extent size on a bunch of tables, had the alter to row level locking, and then this was really interesting. Frank turned on compression. I've seen really good and really bad results with this, and Frank's a good example of turning on compression and getting some good results with it. Frank also created a trigger for the the batch bill. So between that and the extents, and then added a log, actually added a very big log, and dropped a bunch of the smaller logs, all through SQL, which was allowed. You couldn't do it through on-prams, but this worked out well. So ended up with just 3 logs there for the whole database, which I think is also critical in being able to get this all to run fast and efficiently. And last, let's just take a quick look here at he did the typical, the really good changing everything to row, had the indexes, did the update stats, and then also did a doing an unload to dev null to put the data into memory, which I think helped a lot here with everything that he did. So all in all, some very creative solutions to this problem. And again, I think it's the right combination of not overdoing it. It's really tempting, I think, when you sit down and try and make too many changes all at once and overdo it. The other thing I saw that I thought was interesting with all 4 of you who won was, instead of overdoing it, you sent me what I would call initial configurations to see what you got back, and then your second configuration was a real fast one, except for Tian. Tian actually, his first configuration, Tian, that you sent me, and you were one of the early ones in, I thought no one's going to beat it after that, because it was the fastest until the very last day. Your first configuration that you sent held a record until about the last day. So that was a real good job there on that. So I'm going to unmute Frank and Goring and just say, Goran, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I can comment that the update stats commands, they were generated by Arch DoStats program.
Oh, that's a good point. So you used Arch DoStat to do that. Cool. Frank, anything you'd like to add?
I'm a little surprised I see the first 2 winners. They did a very little preparation, and also for the lock mode page, that's for the OLTP lock mode page. That's interesting. I use row lock mode. That's interesting. The page, So suppose the lock granularity should be smaller. But another is I found the logic log size really also impact. It's a small logic log. It fill up too quickly. It consumes something. So it's bigger. I found it's save time. And the compression also, I think, give me kind of improvement compression. And the other, the SQL cache, secret statement cache also give improvement. So it's very impressive, the other people, what they did, yeah. And yeah. That's it. That's it.
Well, awesome. You guys all did a really good job on it. I'm going to put everybody back on mute for a minute here. And before I open it up to questions. If the easiest way to get a question is if you see the chat box on the, there should be a green bar at the top of your screen, and you should see a chat button there. If you have a question, go ahead and if I unmute everybody, it'll be chaos. So if you have a question, go ahead and type it in the chat window and send it to me, and I'll then ask the question. And while we're waiting for questions, I want to point out one thing. So everybody who participated in the contest, I'm modeling here the black Fastest DBA shirt that all 4 of you are going to get. And and they're coming out with a new iPad, so I haven't gotten it this year because I wanted to see if you wanted to wait till the new one comes out in a couple of weeks, and then we'll figure out how to get that to you. But we'll have the shirts out in about 3 or 4 weeks to you all. And again, I just want to say congratulations, and you guys did an awesome job on this. So, any questions, anybody? And if you have a question, use the chat function and type a question in, and I'll see it that way. Oh, a question from one person was, what was the missing index? Everybody had slightly different indexes. The key index that was missing in the baseline, and let me see baseline. What would happen is the insert would go pretty fast, the first update would go pretty fast, the second update would go pretty fast, and then this update here to the update the customer would do a sequential scan if there was not an index on Bill's customer and the Bill customer. There had to be an index on both fields, and I forget right now which one had an index and which one didn't. But without the index, it did a sequential scan here. And when we sent out the, if you just ran this on a normal machine, you know, I think one problem that confused people is people running this on much faster machines than I had, and so that sequential scan may have gone pretty quickly and not been seen by everyone. So you really need that index there for it to work. Any other questions? Well, I don't have any more questions. So once again, I would like to just say really great job here from everybody who participated. I'm very impressed with the work you guys did to it, and congratulations to everyone. We're going to be writing up a more detailed analysis of what worked and what didn't work, and comparing it to some of the work Art and I have done over the next month. We'll probably have an another webcast. Those of you who have been in our advanced course know that we use this benchmark in the advanced course. And we're coming out pretty soon with our schedule for next year. We'll probably have the Advanced Informix course in February. If anybody's interested, let me know. Again, you can take the course from your desk at home. It was kind of interesting. The last course I had 3 people from one company, and one of them had to go to work every day, so he took it from his desk at work, and the other 2 took it from home. And then I had a couple of people here in class, so it works out kind of fun. We also have a Informix for database administrators for new Informix DBAs, and I've been surprised at how popular that course has been lately. Our next webcast, we're going to do December 3rd. It's going to be by Art Cagle. And Art, let me unmute you. You want to say your thoughts about that? We talked about doing do stats.
I think we're going to concentrate most of the time on the different features in do stats, because while just running it with defaults is good enough for many situations, there's a lot of tunability and additional features in there. And there's I've noticed some confusion about how the aging and browsing features work with the new similar features that are built into the engine in 11.7 and 12. So I think we'll cover that. If we've got some time, maybe we'll look at some of the other tools that are in that package.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, I think everybody knows, Art has a set of utilities called AK Utilities that has a number of tools in it. And this is going to focus on, my idea is let Art talk about how to get the most out of his utilities. And yeah, so stay tuned. There'll be this will be on our website in a day or two, and we'll have some emails out about it. This, I think, will be one of the most popular ones. Just the other comment is all our webcasts are available as replays on YouTube. And so if you missed a webcast in the past, the most popular one is the one Art did a couple of months ago on performance tuning. They're all out there on YouTube. And all of the past Fastest DBA webcasts are out there on YouTube too. So with that, I'd like to say thank you and congratulations again to everybody who participated, and especially to the 4 winners of the contest. Really pleased with the way this worked out, and look forward to seeing everyone participate again. And with that, we'll close. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and we'll get something, an answer back to you. Thank you all, and have a good day.